What's going on, traders? We're not going to waste any time. We're going to get straight into it. Like, subscribe, comment your thoughts below. Let's get into the video. So, when we're looking at the overall market, specifically the ES, I have reason to believe that tomorrow we could see some type of pump and dump action. Now, what do I mean by that? So, in the last video I put out, I basically was saying that across the market, you see a lot of these patterns here, this rising wedge pattern. And typically, as a swing trader, what I like to see as far as rising wedge patterns or any pattern for that matter is a retest of either the bottom of the pattern or the top of the pattern, depending on where we're breaking out at. So, what do I mean? I mean something like this. We want to see some type of move like this where we somewhat retest around above 50-30 or 50-30, 50-40, give or take, before the next leg down. And I do believe that is going to happen heading into tomorrow, where we see a lot of bullish momentum heading to the upside in order to retest a lot of these patterns across the board. And then we see a breakdown across the market. And I also said this in the Discord. I said that I do believe that tomorrow is probably more than likely going to be one of the last bullish days we get in the market for a while. Now, I am aware that Nvidia earnings is tomorrow, and I will give my thoughts on how that should turn out. But right now, this is what I'm looking at as far as tomorrow. If we look at the NASDAQ, it's pretty much the same thing. So right now in the Nasdaq, we bounced off the 200 EMA, and we are, well, I already marked it, but we're looking at a retest towards 17,700. Now, in order for me to be bullish, I would like to see a mount above this level. So let's get rid of this. So in order for me to be bullish on the Nasdaq or, tech in general, I want to see a move up here. We mount up here and then we continue higher towards 18K, potentially retesting the bottom of this trend here. All right. So that would be the move I will look for on the Nasdaq as far as a bullish move. As far as downside goes, I'm looking for a break below 17,450. We break below 17,450, then we could see a move towards 17,350 around this zone down here, and then maybe get some type of bounce to the 200 EMA, and then we continue further down towards 17,100, 17,250, somewhere around that range. All right. But overall, my bearish target on the NASDAQ is 17,100 if we continue in this direction. Okay. So zooming out, as you guys can see, 1, 2, 3, we broke below it. We broke below our key level of 17,700, and we continue further down. So pretty much gave you the cheat codes in the last video. I told you exactly what the levels you're looking for, and everything played exactly how I thought it was. So I am expecting some type of retest towards the 17,700 tomorrow on the NASDAQ before we see a potential next leg down. All right. Looking at triple Qs. So triple Qs is really interesting here. So ideally, uh, we saw a break. Well, not ideally, but we broke out of this rising wedge pattern, which I've told you guys about across the market. We keep seeing this pattern, right? And we have yet to retest the bottom of this pattern, which leads me to believe that we are heading for a retest tomorrow. So basically, what I'm saying as far as tomorrow is that tomorrow is going to be basically gap fills and retest of upside, because we do have a lot of gaps to the upside as far as the overall market. Hopefully, you guys can actually see this, right? So we broke below 425, which was one of the key levels I mentioned in the last video, and then we got faked. Well, bears got faked out, and then we broke back above and closed back above it. So the ideal move that I'm looking for heading into tomorrow is that we're looking towards a retest of the bottom of this wedge. So we can see a move towards 435, 436, and then potentially break back down or continue to go higher. But that's the move I'm looking for as far as upside. If we break back below 425, maybe we just gap down tomorrow morning. Then we head back down to 423.5. And then after that, you're looking back at 422. 422 is the major level we are looking at right now. We break below that, then I believe the sell off and the correction in the overall market is here. All right. So another key factor that I'm looking at as far as how we're looking heading into tomorrow or the overall market is the SQs. So looking at the SQs, and right now we are in a trade on SQs. We are in 13 calls for April 19th. So the move I'm looking at as far as SQs right now, go down to the hourly, so get a better look. So right now on the SQs, as you guys can see, we are overbought on the SQs. We broke out of this pattern, this falling wedge pattern, And right now, we bounced off the 200. Well, we got close to the 200 EMA, and then we broke back down right below 1210. Okay. So I'm looking at again, I said this at the beginning of the video. I always say this. We want to see a retest, and I think that's what's going to happen. And tomorrow, if you don't know what the SQs does, it pretty much moves inverse of the market, so if SQs is going down, then overall market typically goes up and vice versa. So this is another reason why I think tomorrow we're going to have some type of pump and dump scenario. SQs right now is overbought. We're looking at a potential retest at around 1160, 1170 at the top of this pattern here. And after that, I'll be looking to add more contracts on the SQs for April 19th, 13 calls. All right. So do your own due diligence if you do decide to take that play. It's not financial advice, but that's what I'm looking at as far as the SQs. And this gives me more of a reason to think that we are going to see some bullish upside heading into tomorrow. Call it a dead cat bounce, call it whatever you want. But again, this is what I think is going to happen heading into tomorrow. Another thing. So more likely than not, SPY does not keep gaps open too long. Now, there are obviously, exceptions and things like that. But SPY still has this gap at around 500, and I do believe again that we're potentially going to fill that up tomorrow. So like I keep reiterating that tomorrow I think is going to be focused on retesting the bottom of a lot of these rising wedge patterns across the market and gap filling to the top, filling up these gaps all the way to the top. So again, I think SPY is going to take that opportunity heading into tomorrow to fill this gap at around 500, and obviously the market will follow along and start retesting a lot of these rising wedge patterns or whatever pattern these stocks are showing, right? So another stock that I am looking at and had me very cautious on the market is Apple. So Apple has been oversold since like uh last week, okay, like close of last week, I almost say yesterday. But since like close of last week, Apple has been really oversold on the 4 hour. As you guys can see, we're very let me reset this, get a better look. But as you guys can see down here, we are very oversold on Apple. All right. So we've been oversold on Apple for like 2 days straight now. So if we go to the weekly on Apple, if we go to the weekly on Apple, I marked this trend here on the weekly. This is a very strong trend right here. We kept bouncing off this trend over and over on the weekly, and so far we have held it once again. We ended up breaking below it, and then we closed above it. This is why it's important as a swing trader, if you decide to swing trade, to wait on these retest levels, right? Because you would have got trapped here. Bears would have got trapped here easily. But if you paid attention, you'll see that Apple is oversold here, and eventually a bounce will need to happen in order to get us out of oversold territory. So what I like about Apple right now is that we broke down, and I want to see a retest before jumping into puts. And we not only retest, but we broke back above this weekly level, and we stayed above 180, and we broke back above 181.4, and we closed above 181.4. So I have reason to believe that Apple is going to start heading towards this gap fill tomorrow, maybe around 187.5. 190 max I'm looking at as far as Apple goes. All right. So that's what I'm looking at as far as Apple. We retest this 200 EMA, or maybe we fill this gap at 187.5. Again, Apple's been oversold for a long time, and we saw a sell off happen today in the overall market, and Apple just really didn't move much. It just pretty much was like stagnant around 180. If Apple just so happens to give up 179, then you're looking at a move towards 175. But for now, I do think heading into tomorrow, Apple is going to start seeing some upside. Not only that, but when we're looking at unusual wells, so if we look at unusual wells and we type in Apple, and this is really across the whole market. There's really haven't been any put orders coming in yet across the market. You just see nothing but calls. So we have 182.5 calls for February 23rd, 185 calls. This particular contract I jumped in on, 210 calls for what is that, June 21st. So overall, and what is the premium on this actually? And the premium on that particular call was 6 million, right? So that's what I jumped into. It was pretty cheap, pretty. safe, and I really liked how the contract was moving. So I jumped into 10 calls for Apple for June 21st, and you see this action across the market. You just see calls, all right? You see calls. Of course, you see some puts here and there, but overall, you see the end of the days just end with calls. So I do think that tomorrow, this also helps confirm that tomorrow we could see, more upside. Again, even if we look at Tesla, it's pretty much the same thing. And we'll go over Tesla and look at the charts in a minute. But Tesla, same thing. You got 200 calls, 195 calls for this week, 205 calls. You got some puts, but you mainly closed the day off with calls for Tesla. You got 210 calls for the 23rd. So a lot of calls have came in for Tesla. And what I'm looking at as far as Tesla is that I want to see a close above 194. This is actually the wrong one. A close above 194. So let's look at Tesla. So Tesla had a huge move to the upside. I wouldn't say a huge move, but Tesla continued to reject 189 around the bottom of this zone here. And so 189, 190. So you would like to see that move. Not only that, but Tesla closed above the 50 EMA. So I do believe that Tesla has potential to have more upside. Tomorrow, you want to see a close above, well, not a close, but a break above 194 to see more upside on Tesla. Again, I do think the market is going to have some type of pump or dump scenario, and I think Tesla is going to use that opportunity to start filling that gap at around 207, 210, give or take. Any further move, I just can't see right now, but that's all I'm looking at. Again, I just don't. I'm looking more short term. Okay. I do believe that tomorrow is not going to be like super bullish, and I do believe it's probably going to be the last day that we do get, bullish momentum. So I think if the market overall does decide to, have more upside, that Apple, Tesla, things like that are going to use these opportunities to start filling these gaps towards the upside. Again, I'll keep saying it. Tomorrow, the market is going to use these opportunities to retest the bottom of these rising wedge patterns, descending triangles, whatever pattern you may find. I believe the market is going to use those opportunities to retest the bottom of those patterns and fill those gaps. Again, we got a gap here at around 500 for the SPY, triple Qs. Again, we have to retest the bottom of this falling. We eventually will retest the bottom of this falling wedge pattern, rising wedge pattern, and I'm looking at around 435. So it's across the board, and we're kind of oversold on a lot of time frames. Another stock that I was looking at too that had me pretty much cautious on just diving in on puts was Google. Google pretty much the same thing. Google was very oversold. It's probably not anymore. Let's see. Yeah, so not anymore. I think it was like the 3 hour, but Google was oversold. And again, Google has a lot of gaps to the upside. So what I'm saying is, before this correction happens, I think a lot of gaps to the upside need to be filled first before we just start seeing some huge market sell off. Now, will it all happen tomorrow in one day? I don't know. Maybe, Thursday, up till Thursday. So what I'm saying is be cautious, traders. Don't dive headfirst all into calls. Be very cautious. I think, between tomorrow and Thursday are going to be the times where we just look for retest and gap fills. So hopefully I got that through to you. That's really all I have. Like, subscribe, comment your thoughts below. Discord link is in the description below if you want my signals. We do stocks, Forex, crypto, all that fun stuff. And that's pretty much it. Until the next time, traders, have a good one.